What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor. You know, now in the Chinese New Year around the corner, anytime I say with a touch of what, it just reminds me of something else.
You feel extra lucky.
It's purely unintentional. Purely unintentional.
Was
Just the what. What?
Is it a micro
Yeah, it's the...
microaggression? Racist microaggression, is it?
What is it, a microaggression? No. This is me participating in your culture, no?
Oh. But what makes you think that saying what is a Chinese culture thing?
Of course lah. Which other people says what that often?
Huh?
Right.
That is true.
Is it racist saying that?
No, but
Then most people who say what
This
tend
is-
to be of Chinese ethnicity.
if you make a mockery of it, you know.
Yeah, I never make a mockery. I say it how respectfully, you know.
purposefully using bad pronunciation of an English word to make it sound like a Chinese word. You know?
No. I'm
Like,
pretty sure if you...
you're like those American commentators who deliberately don't do the white thing and that kind of thing, you know. Yeah.
Who are these commentators
No, wasn't
that
it
would say it in this
the
day and age?
comedian like do the right thing, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. And
You
then
mean
it
from
was
a
damn
movie
funny.
lah?
Yeah, from a movie or stand-up comedy or what. Russell Peters, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
in this
Russell
day and
Peters,
age,
dude, that was...
this day and age, that kind of thing doesn't fly. So you better watch how you do your what properly. Yeah.
No, if you go back like 100 episodes, it will be the same what. With a touch of what, Terrence?
With a touch
Maybe
of
I should say with a touch of what.
yes, a touch of
With a touch of what?
with a touch of what.
What?
Yeah,
What?
you can save
Yeah.
But yes, anyway.
Yes.
We are thick into 2023 already. And already
Yeah.
there's so much things and news happening, right?
Yeah. Correct. Any highlights of the first week of 2023?
There've been a lot of public figures passing away in recent days, right? I mean the Pope Benedict, right? There's Pope Benedict. I mean, I think late last year there's Pele as well. Then now even Singapore, the icon Sim Wong Hoo, rest in peace. Yeah, all very much in these few days.
Yeah. I think the creative icon Sim Wong Hoo, that one, wow, he's really a legend, yeah. Legend.
Yeah.
I remember the first MP3 player I bought, the digital one, was Creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Creative Zen. And it was dope.
And
dope.
if you're any older than that, also you remember installing the Sound Blaster cards in your PCs.
Sound Blaster.
Wherever trudging down to Sim Lim Square to look through the lists of like how much every card was on those long lists with tiny little fonts, and buying Sound Blaster card and hoping that it will enhance my experience at home with my beige color PC. Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah. And I mean, this guy, like, he's really a legend. If you maybe if you weren't born at the height of his popularity or fame, just go read up on all the articles that are being written out about what he achieved, because it's insane. He built one of Singapore's first truly international homegrown companies. He took on Samsung, he took on Apple, he went head to head with Steve Jobs and won.
Yeah.
Badass, man.
Yeah, and I think he
Rest
was
in peace.
Yeah, they were one of the first companies in the consumer tech space that was really trying to bring tech to the masses, right? With MP3 players and all.
Correct.
Everything that you hold in your pocket today, you have in your pocket, your iPhone and all. Also, I'm sure to some extent they have some patents and all that are to this day they still get paid for, right? Because they were there so early on in the game. Yeah.
I mean, that's what he took on Apple for. Apparently, Steve Jobs visited the creative booth at one of those tech fairs, arranged a meeting for the creative people to present to him what they're developing, and then boom, they just took it and ran with it. So he was like, no.
Yeah.
Then Apple settled with them for 100 million.
Yeah.
So shout out to creative, man, and Sim Wong Hoo.
And I'll never
in
forget
peace.
how they also got Paris Hilton as their product ambassador back in the day.
Is it?
Yeah, creative. So that's how aggressively they were marketing to the world. I mean, debatable Paris Hilton whether she's the right person to front your brand, but regardless,
the
it's
fact
still
that
a
you
name,
remembered,
yeah.
the fact that you remembered, and that was when she was a lot more popular.
Yeah. Popular, very popular. That's right. But yes.
But cool.
Uh,
Yes.
But before we jump into all the big topics we're talking about, what do you have to
Yeah.
plug?
That is our dear subreddit community. The link is in the show notes. I think now it's slightly above 2,000 members. And I think one thing that for both of us, for me especially, is to be more to respond more actively on Reddit, because I realized like the past month and all I was kind of off the grid, but I'm going to get back to that, and it would be great to also see you guys sharing your thoughts and just posting about anything. Anything doesn't even have to be related to our podcast.
I mean, don't force yourself lah. For me, Reddit really has become an organic part of how I find news or interesting nuggets from the internet. So I really spend quite a bit of time on Reddit day to day now. So it's I do respond, and it's not, I'm not faking it or just doing it for the clicks. I'm there because I'm just there lah. I'm just hanging out on Reddit. So
So you're saying I'm faking it, is it, Terrence?
No, I'm just saying don't force yourself. I'm going to respond and I'm going to sit down for 25 minutes now and time myself, responding to Reddit comments. And after that, we don't hear from you for another 7 days.
However, I do it, none of your business, dude.
No. I just said don't force it. I just say don't force it. Let it come organically. That's the time now. Yeah.
Certain things, if you want to exercise, you just let it come organically. No, you need a plan, and then you stick to it, and then it becomes organic.
A habit lah. Build a habit.
Yeah lah, habit. So So how you build a habit? At first, you have to put this guidepost lah. Say okay, you will respond. So that's all I'm doing, Terrence.
Yeah, I'm just saying don't do it in one blast. After that, we don't hear from you for another month, and after I'm gonna come back and do it again, then I'll blast. And then we don't hear from you.
Yeah. Regardless of how I do it, Terrence, we have different approaches. We are different people.
We will try. Yeah.
Okay.
We will try.
Yes, we will try.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yes.
Okay.
Shall we jump right into that first big topic?
We should. Yeah. So it's not the most Singaporean news, but it's something that we wanted to talk about lah. Basically, Dana White, who is the CEO and founder of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, who is arguably one of the most famous people in the UFC, even though he's not a fighter. There was footage of him and his wife at a bar in Cabo, Mexico on New Year's Eve, getting into a little bit of a kerfuffle where she slapped him and then he proceeded to slap her back.
That's right.
And the video was leaked none other by TMZ, which is kind of a tabloidy outlet in the US. And since then, it's been flooding the news. And why has it been flooding the news?
I think when you have any big public figure, in the act of domestic violence, generally it's for a lot of people, it's career ending, right? It's them having to step down. It's them having to issue apologies or really do something that really it's a career-ending move lah. When you lay your hands on your spouse, especially when it's a man hitting a woman, right? And especially when the woman also is the mother of your children and everything lah. So there's also been word spreading around, and literally, I think reporters of ESPN as well, coming out and saying that they've been told to downplay the extent, or at least the coverage on this whole incident a little bit, because ESPN does have business dealings with the UFC, or is it they're owned by the same parent company? Is it?
No, I think ESPN is the distributor.
Yeah, ESPN is the distributor owned by Disney. Yeah, that's right. Endeavor is the parent company of UFC, and while Dana White is the president of the UFC, right? ESPN has a very multi-year contract with the UFC and everything. So apparently, the reporters at ESPN have been told to downplay the entire incident a little bit lah, and it kind of goes against everything we know about how executives in very public and public figures in big companies should behave. So it's kind of a bit of a there's a lot of people watching what is going on, what is going to happen as a result of this incident. But for you, like, I mean, you're not someone who follows the UFC very regularly or the chatter about it, right? What made it more interesting for you also?
I mean, it's just one of those things that, like what you said, if such a big public figure does something that is almost universally condemned, right? The action, like what's going to happen, lah. And I'm always curious to see how someone's status or fame influences what happens after they fuck up, lah. And of course, when researching this, incidentally, there were some almost too coincidental facts or things around the corner, lah. Because Dana White, I mean, he's the founder CEO of UFC. UFC has gone almost mainstream, lah, right?
Yep.
You would say it's mainstream, right?
Yep.
And the thing that is just around the corner that was already scheduled was the launch of his latest pursuit, lah, which is the Power Slapping League, right? Power Slapping League, is that what it's called?
I think just Power Slap. Yeah.
Power Slapping League.
No, just I think it's just called Power Slap. Yeah, the Power Slap promotion or whatever. Yeah.
Power Slap.
Yeah.
So it was basically it's a slap fighting league.
Yeah.
If you have never heard of the term, right? Basically, it's a sport that originated in Eastern Europe where two grown men or women stand opposite each other and take turns to slap each other. Like you cannot defend against a slap, lah.
Yeah.
And I think it was sometime last year when Dana White started sharing videos or excerpts on his Instagram, just telling his fans, because he has a huge Instagram following also, just telling his fans, yo, this is unreal, you know, should I bring it to UFC Fight Pass, which is like their aggregator for sports, lah.
Yeah.
And then it announced that they're launching a league, and it's supposed to launch like in these coming weeks, right? And it's been taken off the schedule very discreetly by TBS, the platform that is airing it. So then I was like, wow, could this be a publicity stunt or something?
Yeah.
If I put on my cynical hat, like, because I didn't know about this Power Slap League until this happened.
Yeah.
So those two things stuck out. What's going to happen next, given his position and the proximity to the launch of the Power Slap League, lah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
crazy
coincidence, but it also is inspiring a lot of jokes and memes about this entire thing. Like, although domestic violence, it's not something that to joke about. I think it's just the timing of the Power Slap League promotion being launched and Dana White's apology and everything, lah. But just to rewind a little bit to the actual incident itself, right? When you watch the video of the slap happening, how do you feel about it? Because I mean, okay, just for context, I think it's very clear that his wife slaps him first, right? And it's in the middle of a club, you know. So obviously, probably in a New Year's Eve party, the emotions are high, and maybe there's a lot of alcohol involved as well. But how do you feel when you actually saw the slap and all that?
Because it's taken from quite far, right? It's from someone who's on the lower floor and then they're standing in the balcony of the club or something. So at first, I was thinking, oh shit, when is the slap going to happen? Because they were arguing.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to a clip of her like leaning on the ledge with her head in her arms. And Dana White, I was like, oh shit. I remember reading that she slapped him first. I was like, what the fuck is going to happen? So then she tugs him and she slaps him. And then he immediately slaps back and then he slaps again and then they go out of view.
Yeah.
And he's a big ass guy, right?
Yeah. That's right.
So I watched it. I was like, wow. It was like I was like, whoa, shit. But I will also say that I it's not one of those videos that I found hard to watch. And I don't know whether that makes me a horrible person or not.
You're basically the target fan for Power Slap League.
No, fuck. I think Power Slapping is fucking stupid. But I watched it. I was like, oh, wait. It's almost like, okay, there's a couple having a fight. And of course, I share the sentiment that like as a man, just as a bigger person, regardless of gender, you shouldn't slap someone else lah. Like gender, of course, men don't slap women. But even if you're a bigger person, you just slap until like that. That's when I was like, oh shit! But I had to think about it. Like, it wasn't something that I deep down inside I was like, oh my god.
So by your logic,
what about you?
By your logic, if he was shorter or smaller than his wife, it would have been okay lah for him to slap her.
No, so that's where like a giant wife, a giant wife, like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman when they were together. No, like even then, I would say even if you track it by science, right? On average, men have higher muscle density than women, right? So with all that, I still feel like, as a guy, you should never hit a woman lah. But what about you when you watch the video?
I mean, probably my thoughts also come from the context of following the UFC as a sport and just knowing how Dana White generally treats journalists that he doesn't like, or fighters that he doesn't like and all that. He has, I mean, he's so far, his whole entire career, he's managed to use verbal assaults, or basically just use words, right, to insult people or scold them and all that, or use his power as the probably a very rich president of the UFC and everything. He's used that to his advantage lah. So this is the first time, really seeing him lose his cool, lose his composure, and really strike someone. And unfortunately, that person is his wife lah. But if you ask me, am I surprised by seeing someone like Dana White do something like this? I'm not lah, because the things that you read about, you read about what he does or what he says about people who disagree with him and all. It's very clear the guy has certain anger management issues and things like that, no? So for this to actually be seen now and captured on camera and all that, feels like it's a long time coming, Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
What have been some of?
Yeah.
You think what?
If you want to go in the rabbit hole, there's this particular MMA journalist called Ariel Helwani, who for many years has been widely recognized as the leading or one of the best journalists in mixed martial arts, because he was there from the very beginning in the 2000s and everything, and he followed mixed martial arts, and he, from just out of a hobby or interest, it grew into, like, he literally was hired by ESPN to become like one of the leading journalists in MMA, and then subsequently he left because of differences and also because of ESPN's relationship with Dana White lah and the UFC lah, right? But they have a very long history of Ariel Helwani covering the sport, covering UFC, and then after that being banned from covering the UFC, and then after that being reinstated, then after that deciding he will never go to a UFC event and everything. But essentially it boiled down to when early in the days, I think it was UFC 199 or something like that, when they were about to announce that Brock Lesnar, the WWE wrestler, was going to make an appearance and fight at UFC 200. It was meant to be a big secret reveal. And then this journalist, Ariel Helwani, leaked the information. He knew the information, he got the information, and then he leaked it before the announcement at the UFC event. And that apparently pissed off Dana White so much that since then he's banned Ariel Helwani and has said a lot of bad things about him in the media, in the press and everything. And basically even jostling ESPN and all to push Ariel Helwani out, which is essentially what happened. Ariel Helwani left ESPN. So, long story short, Ariel Helwani he's also provided a lot of receipts about how badly he's been treated by Dana White in the UFC. So if you follow the sport and you read his things, or you listen to his podcast or watch his videos, basically it's a very Dana White is not exactly a saint either, right? And that's why watching all this unfold, it's kind of like you kind of saw it coming, and unfortunate that it happened, but it's now is like the time of reckoning, Can the UFC continue with Dana White as the president? But for
Because,
you,
I mean,
do you ever, for any
yeah.
point of time, do you ever, because there are people who are saying this on the internet lah, that the wife slept first, what? So, I mean, you expect him to just like not retaliate, especially when there's alcohol and everyone's emotions are so high and all that. Isn't
Because
that
gender
more?
equality, is it?
Sorry, what?
Because gender equality lah.
Yeah, gender
Is it?
equality plus alcohol makes people make bad decisions. So it's not like he was at home and then he punched her in the face or anything like that, lah, right? It was in a
Yeah.
public space and she slapped him first. She got emotional. She slapped him first, provoked him to respond, lah, right? So
Yeah.
is there does we all say domestic abuse, lah, but does it exist on a spectrum where a slap in a club is very different from punching someone at home? Like, is there any place to maybe find forgiveness for Dana White in that case?
I mean, like, I don't think it is completely binary. Like, if you're at home and your wife is like over you, just punching you in the face, like you can't just like take it, like,
That means what, you beat back?
You can't just
beat back.
No, not beat back. Like, I don't know, like defensive maneuver or something, lah. But that's where I also feel like, okay, like there's hitting a woman, but there's also self-defense, lah. And like when I was thinking about it before, I'm like, why is it so ingrained in us that the man cannot hit the woman? And how I thought about it was, like if you look at the average weight, average height, average muscle density, I would even go so far as to say as average strength. I don't know. Typically, I would imagine it would skew towards males, lah, right? So, but even though I know the arguments in MMA itself, for those transgender athletes, where you talk about these sort of differences, it gets very, very polarizing, lah. Some people are saying that, of course, a man who undergoes sex change, becomes a woman, should be able to compete in a women's competition because he's a woman,
Yeah.
But then the argument, the moment they look at a lot of the physical factors, is clearly an imbalance, right? So that's why I feel, okay, as a guy, you shouldn't hit a woman. But yeah, it is. I do think it's not super. How you say? No, I would say by and large, only in extreme circumstances you fight back. But the whole he slapped back. Yeah, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I would add to
but how would you respond? Yeah,
I would add to your options of like just sitting there taking it or self-defense. I would add to that just get away lah, run away, walk away, right? You don't necessarily, if you feel that you're in that kind of bad situation, especially as like you say, the guy, at least I'm brought up like that lah, where you walk away lah, you walk out the situation rather than confront it at that moment, right? And hope that everyone cools down a little bit, because I think for the wife's side, violence also wasn't the right option to take, right? Even if she was very upset or something, especially in a public space like this and all. But so I mean, Dana White, I'm sure he's got bodyguards and everything, like watching him. So if he walks away, I'm sure it's easy for him to maintain some distance between himself and his wife, right? But that's the hard part, self-control, being able to just like put your emotions aside and just like try to find a space for yourself to just cool down as well.
I'm curious how people of different generations would answer to that. Like, why should a man never hit a woman? Like what you said, I think I also was brought up that way. I don't know whether maybe people like younger generation these days, with a lot more emphasis on gender equality, would ever say anything different. I don't know. I'm curious. But I mean, there's also been statements by the both of them. Dana White recorded a video interview with TMZ, the news outlet that broke the news. And I mean, he did say that it's I'm one of the guys you heard me say for years, there's never an excuse for a guy to put his hands on a woman, and now I'm here on TMZ talking about it. My wife and I have been married for almost 30 years. We've known each other since we were almost 12. We've been through some shit. We got 3 kids, and he's embarrassed. And right now his focus is on the kids. He said him and his wife are cool. They've spoken about it. They've shown the video to their kids.
Yeah.
Now the focus is on the kids. And even she issued a statement Dana and I have been married for almost 30 years. To say this is out of character for him is an understatement. Nothing like this has ever happened before. Unfortunately, we were both drinking too much on New Year's Eve and things got out of control on both sides.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the only people who haven't really put out a statement as of now is UFC. I think ESPN deferred to UFC. Endeavor hasn't said anything. The share prices of Endeavor, which is a listed company, has dipped by like 17%.
Yeah.
So there is reactions lah. But what do you think of those two statements from the both of them?
I mean, there's a definite element of damage control, lah, right? Whether or not they actually make those statements or what is debatable, like, or the PR teams or what. But I think it's more telling that the UFC and Endeavor and all haven't actually made any statements, because like what we mentioned, UFC is a much newer sport. They just became mainstream in more recent years, right? Compared to the history that basketball or football or any other big global sport has had, lah. And I can't imagine any president or head of any of these organizations in those sports, if they are so publicly recorded, so publicly witnessed, committing domestic abuse, domestic violence against a partner, that they'd be let off the hook that easily, with just a TMZ interview that almost seemed like, it's such a sad situation. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? Rather than what do you have to say for yourself, kind of situation, I can imagine if it was the NBA commissioner or even the FIFA president who did something like that, it'll be a much bigger hoo-ha, and also because they're bigger sports, right? But the hoo-ha will be much bigger, and more likely than not, they will be made to step down, right? Even in Singapore, the recent incident I remember was when the Privé group, the CEO, the ex-CEO of the Privé group,
correct, yeah.
I think he was convicted making some kind of really aggressive, rude statements, sexual harassment kind of statements against an underage boy in a lift that he encountered after a party. So he was probably inebriated and drunk and everything, right? So he made some of these statements, and I threatened to attack the boy or something like that. Made threats, and was convicted of that. For a while, I think the restaurant group actually tried to stand behind him as CEO, and they put out a statement saying that they stand by him and his contributions to the company have been very important and everything. And then they faced such a huge backlash that they had to backtrack on that, and basically the CEO had to step down. So it tells you that even for businesses that aren't very big, the backlash can be huge when they stand behind employees or even the CEOs who do very nasty things in public. So it's quite eye-opening to see that there isn't this news is not going crazy yet. It's big news within the sport itself, but outside of the UFC and everything, it hasn't received as much coverage or on ESPN or what. And then it turns out that journalists in ESPN have been told to suppress, not to talk too much about it, and not to make too much of a fuss about it. How do you feel about that?
But that one is leaked.
Yeah.
It's not confirmed, right? It's leaked,
I think it was a tweet from a journalist himself. Yeah, let me just verify that quickly.
I just noticed the little Easter egg. What's on your t-shirt, Terrence?
Oh yes, it's I'm wearing this because it's close to Chinese New Year. It's nothing to do. It's not coincidental at all.
It's damn coincidental. But what is it for those who can't see the video?
It's a one championship. It's a one championship t-shirt, the rival promotion to the UFC. Yeah, but this is not sponsored by them at all. Really. I just woke up today.
Sponsored.
I was like, do I want to wear black again? Because I've been wearing black all the time. And they're like, okay, there's this t-shirt. Let me just wear it. And then it's the one t-shirt. We are talking about UFC. Just so happens.
Why not?
Yeah.
But no, because I think your last question about what do I think about ESP Engineers being silenced. I mean, ultimately ESPN is a huge ass media outlet, right? And my default mode for any huge ass media outlet is always a healthy dose of skepticism, and knowing that they will never be objective. There will always be some sort of pressure to do one thing or the other, and I think why it's is tricky, I can imagine, is because UFC is a very hot property. Dana White is like the person who brought UFC mainstream. So it's just the similar case of he's too powerful to fall. And I think one thing that I imagine it being tricky, because apparently the UFC has remained quite silent when some of its fighters have been accused of domestic violence. This one I'm not sure of the history lah, because there have been people like John Jones and Mike Perry, and the UFC kind of takes apparently like a muted stance on it. Like they're not like overly condemning. But then I was thinking maybe it's because they are in the business of violence, right? So so it's almost like if New Water, as a company, if someone pissed on an employee of New Water pissed on the pavement or something, you think New Water would come out and say we condemn the urination on a public property? I don't know. I can imagine it might not be as universal as other companies.
Yeah.
If that makes sense in any way. It's just, in the way, like one championship, like what you observe also in terms of how they market it, which I think Chatri, who is the founder and CEO, has publicly said also, or has insinuated that the UFC is all about the violence, whereas one is about the martial arts. You know how martial arts instills respect and dignity, but UFC almost they export violence. So when there's any form of violence, what would your stand be like? Which is why this whole thing is quite interesting. Like I cannot imagine him carrying on as CEO. I feel something has to happen lah. But what do you think? Given that you are more familiar with UFC's history.
I think what you talked about, the fighters and the domestic abuse controversies have it's very true lah. Like I think they were called out for being insensitive when, for the very first UFC card that was on ESPN, they had a former football player who was like American football player who was convicted of domestic violence, make his debut in the UFC, and then on the very same card, they had a female fighter who was literally weeks before subject to her own case of domestic violence, and was probably still very traumatized by it. So to put them on the same card itself kind of shows you that within the UFC there's probably a blind spot to these things lah, that they don't think that it's a very bad look to do something like that, or in very, very bad taste to put someone who's guilty of domestic violence next to a victim of domestic violence in the same UFC card that basically launched the UFC to the mainstream lah, right, in the first ESPN card. So it tells you that the dollars and cents really matter much more than common sense lah. Unfortunately, in that case, and then some will argue it's just a sport. What they do outside of the sport, you don't. We as fans shouldn't care, lah, right? But I think that's where, as an organization, they need to care, lah, as the organization. It's not for the fans to have to police this themselves, but I think the organization has to be careful about these things, especially because UFC is a big business. It's no longer just a underground hobby or anything, or like Kimbo Slice fighting the backyard. It's a real business that literally kids today are watching. Kids are looking up to these fighters. Kids are growing up saying, I want to be a fighter, and they're going to. I mean, now there's so many kids going for like jiu-jitsu classes, right? Taekwondo classes from like 2 or 3 years old. It tells you that it's really gone mainstream now, where people see it as a legitimate sport. Mixed martial arts is a legitimate sport they can follow. So I think the people that they place in front of these organizations, at the top of these organizations, says a lot about what they hope the sport can become as well, right? So
yeah.
Like what you said, that's the reasoning for why you have to look at these fighters, these executives, their personal lives and how they conduct themselves before you think about what they do for the sport also, right? As in just from the sports itself.
Do you think he will stay on?
Well, I mean, the UFC has had a lot of controversies, not just regarding domestic violence, but a lot of things like drug testing is fighters, and what certain things they allow, certain things they not. So they have, as a very new budding sport, it's gone through a lot of controversies in its time. And if there, if my and the interesting thing also is that Dana White is not just he's not just someone who was employed by the UFC, lah, right? He was
Yeah.
he was part of the original group of owners as well, lah, right? So I
Yeah.
think he's got much bigger say than how, like, let's say the NBA commissioner or even the FIFA president has over his own appointment, lah, right? As the head of the organization.
Yeah.
So it's like WWE, lah. You watch someone like Vince McMahon, literally the CEO. Whenever he wants, he can just write himself into the storylines of whatever's going on in every week in the show. And literally, as we speak, I think Vince McMahon has just reinstalled himself as the executive chairman of WWE after retiring a few months ago already from some sexual harassment scandals or something. So that's the kind of power that Dana White has in the organization. So if you ask me, will anything be done? I actually don't think so. I think this will, fade into the distant collective memories of Reddit and nothing more than this, lah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why, I mean, we'll see, because this is fresh off the news, lah, right? It's quite fresh, lah, right?
Fresh, yeah.
Pretty fresh. So we'll see what happens, lah. But
I mean, one more thing I just wanted to also ask you is, what do you think, like ESPN, do you think they should be covering this more, or based on their business interests, or that they can talk about it but they don't have to just harp it up? What do you think?
Wow. That one. I think, I don't know whether there's a more or like there's a perfect answer, but I think even as a business, right, the smartest thing to do is just cover it enough so that people don't suspect anything. Because, I mean, ultimately, as a business, you also want to not say show what you stand for, but show me like show what you don't stand for, lah. And I think it's inevitable in this day and age, lah, right?
Yeah.
If someone does something, but that one is tricky, man, because technically they have a business relationship, but they're not owners of them. They're not owned by UFC. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the thing is, if their journalists are being told to not cover it, that's fucked up, lah.
That's alleged, lah, right? It's alleged, yeah.
Yeah, alleged, lah.
Yeah.
But for you?
I think, even as a business kind of thing, I think this is where they need to, really, maybe even if it's your working partner, you're someone who has a contract with them, maybe it's time to nudge the UFC towards more professional kind of management, lah, right? Rather than the owner, one of the early owners of the company and all, still running the ship as he ran it 20 years ago. Because I think that's the reason sometimes you see companies like, remember Uber? When Uber, one of the founders, I can't remember his name.
Travis Shalani.
Yeah, when he was running Uber, it was all about their hustle culture and break things fast and all that, right? But when Uber got to a certain size, a certain geographical footprint and all, you had to play by different rules, right? You had to play within the rules of the country and not always be seen as like the maverick and trying to break all the infrastructure that was in place already, right? And then that's when he had a big there was a big hoo-ha about how he treated their own drivers who were driving Uber and all that, and he had to step down as well, right? So maybe for the UFC, it's time to, and its partners as well, it's time to really nudge the company towards that. Because I mean, to Dana White's credit, I think the UFC has been trying to become mainstream, not only by just being more popular, but also instituting things like drug testing for all athletes. Signing out USADA, which is the US, I think the drug administration. They are the ones who test the athletes. They're meant to be an independent organization that is paid by these sporting organizations to randomly test and report on their athletes, right? So the fact that UFC signed up for that tells you that they want to try and police the drug use within their own sport. They want to be seen as a clean sport, and probably more than anyone else, the UFC has been has been really trying to create the feeling that it's not
Legit,
it's legit. It's not that basement sport. It's not that underground fighting. It's not that backyard fighting thing that you watched on YouTube in 2006 with Kimbo Slice and all that. It's different. It's a professional sport. People wear uniforms. There are referees. It works with like athletic commissions in every state and things like that. So to that end, maybe this is the last bastion that they really need to overcome, which is to remove any like really controversial personalities who are heading the company at the top lah. And I mean, you have to recognize everything that he's done for the sport. Yes, he's brought it to a very different place, but also maybe he's not the man to lead it in the next decade or so already lah.
The one thing I think definitely will happen is he'll no longer be the face of the power slap competition. Like, it's too fucking close to the incident. He probably will be removed from that.
Yeah.
Whether or not the power slap league still goes live, who knows? But I'm actually curious. I didn't know this happen until you send the link to me. So if anyone listening also wasn't aware, it's just interesting to watch lah. Because can you imagine in the span of less than a year, we have a slap that has taken the internet or at least parts of the internet by storm.
Yeah.
Right. Not a fucking slap. Not a slap.
Yeah. And then now they monetize it with the Power Slap League, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, I was just reading up on the Power Slap League. It originated from Eastern Europe. And then there was one article that pointed out, okay, these sort of sports are not that ridiculous because in Russia, there is the team fighting championship.
Yes.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've seen the videos. It's crazy.
Holy shit. It's like UFC, which is 1-on-1. This team fighting championship is 5-on-5. It's basically
gang fight, basically gang fight, but in a cage as a sport lah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And you can see videos online. They have a YouTube channel. They have 443,000 subscribers. And I just watched one. It's insane. Like the fight is over in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking insane. So I'll just add a link so you guys can know these sort of things exist.
Yeah.
But holy shit.
The only thing I would add is that basically the power slap, I think for people, for those hardcore fans of mixed martial arts that are on the internet and all that, right? The power slap league right now is like what pickleball is to tennis players lah, to tennis fans lah. I think a lot of tennis fans are very turned off by pickleball because it's like, you mostly see like old people playing it, and then now I think they're all trying to professionalize it and make it look cool and fun and all. A lot of tennis purists are afraid that pickleball might end up becoming more popular than tennis because it's so easy to play, so easy to pick up, and then it won't be as fun and cool anymore lah. So a lot of UFC purists also are like, they don't want power slap to succeed because to them it's like, this is crap lah. It's like, it's basically, it's not even, I mean, they don't even regard it as a sport or anything. It's just basically two people. It's like you go to that kind of like college or frat party, and then two people are drunk and then they say, oh, let's do something and see who can come out on top. And like, oh yeah, let's slap each other and see who still stays sober.
It's fun to watch. Like if that happens at a party, I will fucking watch.
As a spectator lah, but let's say
deny it.
But let's say it was your girlfriend, your wife, and one of her girlfriends, who suddenly like they're half drunk, and then they say, oh, wouldn't it be a great idea if we just slapped each other in the face?
So
and
for
then,
my
like,
wife
Harish,
to be the slappy, is it?
Yeah. Then how would you still be? Oh, it'd be great. I'll just sit there and watch. I'll be there to watch.
No, this is NIMBY to the max. NIMBY. So this would be like NIMBY equivalent for the wife. I'm like, no, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Your friends want to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever, go ahead.
So,
of course, if they're drunk and all, then you don't want them to just do stupid shit that they're not even aware of. Like.
Yeah. So
you're telling me you won't watch. You're telling me you won't watch.
No, so by that measure, if it's people that I care about, I won't want them to do it, lah, right? So that's what the power slap feels like. It feels like it's just almost like a college party joke taken too far to the extreme where they make it a sport. And then they literally have a role of someone who he's meant to catch you when you faint, like when you collapse from the slap. So
and you cannot defend yourself.
Yeah, so the cool thing now is or the so-called cool thing that they're trying to do is that they invite celebrities to be the person catching you when you fall. So can you imagine maybe one day Logan Paul or The Rock or what is standing behind you and then you get slapped and then you fall into his arms and that is like the role of the celebrity. So I'm like, it's just so weird. We're just celebrating the being able to assault each other without any immediate response, you know. And that's what
Crazy lah.
is there like really a way to train for something like that? Whether it's like, you know, your neck muscles and all. And,
No, I think can what your neck muscles, how you slap,
Yeah.
your rotation,
Your
your
technique
torso rotation, or
yeah. But how
confirm can
about the
train.
added?
Confirm can train.
Yeah, just why don't you add on things like being able to you know, move away from it, and then I guess it becomes boxing or martial arts,
Yeah,
already, right?
Yeah, no, this is
So that's
this
why
is
it's
to all
just
those
strange that it's
there's a slapping purists lah. You think there are no purists or slappers, right? There are
domestic
purists in
abusers,
every way.
basically. Yeah, lah. So it's like they should call it domestic abuse league, lah. You know, those people are probably the best at it, lah, right?
Yeah. But who knows? We shall
Yeah.
see.
We shall see, lah. We shall see. We shall see what happens to Dana White, and we shall see whether power slap becomes successful. Right?
Happens, yeah.
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 But I guess wow.
Segue King.
How do I find a transition?
On.
Yeah.
Come
it's a
on.
tough one. Okay, I mean, I guess speaking of a slap in the face, lah, you know, this person, this family received a huge slap in the kind of a huge rude awakening, a big slap in the face when they found out something about the HDB unit that they had bought and moved into. And it's a quite a big shocker, and I think it's quite fun to talk about. What is this story?
So there was a family that moved into a HDB flat in Potong Pasir, and apparently 3 weeks after moving in, they found out the morbid history of that particular flat. And that is that in 2020, there were the skeletonized remains of the unit's previous owner who had died in the flat and was undiscovered for a suspected 9 years.
Yeah.
So the owner died in the flat. The windows were open. That's why apparently there was no foul smell, which sounds a bit weird because every time someone dies in a flat, undiscovered, you always hear the tip-off to the police or the authorities being the smell.
Yeah.
But yeah, the body was there for so long that it was a skeleton. And it was discovered only when the NEA wanted to do dengue checks.
Yeah, that's right.
It was discovered in July 2020.
9 years,
but these owners only found out 3 weeks after moving in.
Yeah.
So why do you want to talk about this, Terrence?
I mean, it's a crazy story, right? Like, for the body to be found like 9 years later, and the fact that it still got sold and all is pretty interesting. But then you add on top of that the fact that the owners, the people who bought it, didn't do a little bit of just Googling or what lah, to find out that actually in December 2021 this was already reported. The skeletal remains of a man found in Potong Pasir flat was put up for sale lah, right? I mean, as in the flat was put up for sale. So yeah, I mean, I guess if you're buying a place, you kind of just want to maybe Google a little bit.
Would you?
A little bit about
Would you
right?
Google? Like I Googled where I stay, like when I was buying it, but I mean not the block lah, you know.
Yeah.
Like in the article on 2021, they actually put the block and the address. So that's where it feels like, wow, now before you buy your flat or condo or any house, you have to Google whether someone has died there before. What the fuck?
But you think that the owners, who's the owners on? Is it on the people who are buying the place to ask questions, or is it on the property agent, or what? Like who's who need what? Should you have to reveal it, and whose responsibility should it be?
I would say it would be on the owners of the couple to ask lah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, like otherwise, how much details you want to share of the previous owner? They can be, you know where you're sitting now? They actually had sex there 4 times.
Yeah,
cannot be
4 babies were conceived.
Cannot go
4 babies were conceived on this,
4 babies,
in this room right here.
Exactly. Yeah, and then someone fell down there. You know, because it gets slippery when the water overflows. So I would say it's on the owners of the couple to find out lah. But what about you?
Yeah, to me it's like I mean, people dying at home is not a rare occurrence either lah, right? Not every not every death or what happens in a hospital bed or something. Sometimes some people, they're being taken care of at home and then they pass away in their sleep or whatever, lah, right?
Yeah.
So you can't expect even the property agent, would he necessarily know entirely like the history of the place? He might not, he or she might not, right? So like you, I think it is up to the people buying, and if they have an agent representing them as well, to ask these questions, right? These basic questions. But also the bigger thing is even if they know already, is it that big a deal? Like, would it be a deal breaker for you if you were looking for a place, everything's perfect, the location's perfect, the view is perfect, it's all good? Would it be then they suddenly tell you, oh, by the way, this place, this person died here, and then his body wasn't recovered until many years later? Would it affect your decision about moving in or living in this place?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Though I will remember that I think shortly after me and my fiance then moved in, I did have a dream that we came in for renovation, and just like when the renovation was happening, and I caught wind of the contractors. Like one of them, I think, died.
Wait, this is your dream, lah.
The rest,
you're talking about
in
a
my
dream.
dream, in my dream.
Okay.
Yeah, the rest of them used the body to be part of the wall that they were, like a divider that they were building.
I see.
And I saw them do it.
I see.
Either that or when I already moved in, then I was knocking some nail into the wall and it started crumbling and I saw a body staring at me. I think that's also influenced by the fact that we have been talking about a TV show idea around that concept.
Yeah.
But I remember waking up and thinking, oh, fuck, what the hell is in my walls?
Yeah.
But I mean, it didn't last. So that aside, I don't think this would disturb me for a bunch of reasons. But broadly, I don't think so. For you?
Yeah, I think and given that the death was quite a number of years ago, right? It's I think it's actually I wouldn't say it's comforting, right? But there's a bit of distance from that event, and
but the feng shui all how, bro? Feng shui.
Then that one I can't help anyone because feng shui masters will tell you what you want to hear or don't want to hear, They will tell you exactly that. You see, they know what pushes your buttons. So you might get people telling you not to do that and all, but yeah, to me it's like every building has history, like maybe because Singapore, our public houses are all generally quite they're only built in recent times, right? Talking about the last 50 years or so. But when you're living overseas in New York or whatever, you can literally look up the history of your building, and sometimes you're like, oh shit, there was a butcher at the bottom of my building. A lot of animals died here, and or there was a murderer who was staying in my building, and there was a serial killer and all that. Literally, those were things that I was reading about a place that I lived in as well, So, but in places like that, it's like if you can get housing, you're very lucky already, right? So you just take whatever you can get and worry about all those other things another time, So I mean, maybe in Singapore, because the public housing is so new. So talking about history of a building, actually there's not much history in a lot of these buildings. So it's a very big matter when someone actually died here before, that kind of thing. But in the larger scheme of things, it's not a big deal. Yeah.
I mean, I can still imagine like many people feeling like, oh, they would never live in a place like that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I can imagine a lot of people knowing that I do feel it would probably reduce the price slightly. Which means it's a good steal, it's a good buy because they might not give a shit.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
I can totally imagine. But I think the nature of what the history also is something that influenced my decision. Because if it was like, let's say, a murder or something, right? I still think I'll be okay, but the fact that it was a death of an individual man doesn't bother me that much because I think my thoughts around death also have changed over the years. Like I remember when my dad passed away in 2013, that was the first time it hit me like, oh shit, all of us are going to die at some point. Whoever, and it just became, okay, this is part of life.
Yeah.
It's a natural thing. And I don't know, it's almost weirdly comforting knowing that this man's last moments were in the house. I don't know. It just feels like, okay, there's someone here. I don't know why, but that was a thought that crossed to me like, oh, we'll never be alone.
Yeah. Never be alone. But yeah, and don't
You'll never be
forget,
alone.
like, again, because all our buildings are so new, like a lot of places literally are built on what were old cemeteries as well, right? Like all of Bishan, I think used to be a cemetery as well. So would you not stay in Bishan because of that? You know, like you just it's just part of what a building's history is, and then you kind of got. I think over time we just have to embrace that as part of history and not want to tear down everything because someone died or whatever happened there, right?
Though I did read on Reddit that like some people did say that, okay, well, then what's the agent's role? I mean, the agents, I think generally the consensus was if the couples ask and you know the fact, then you disclose lah.
Yeah.
But they pointed out, I think there was one unit, someone shared their own response where someone else died in another flat and the agent marked up the price to be like 888 or something, saying that, and the spiel was that all the misfortune that could have happened in this flat has already happened. So now you're going to get it free of misfortune. I think no one gave a shit. No one bought that.
By paying 888.
Yeah, and also because there was a death, there was a murder or something in the house already. So all the misfortune, like the quota fulfilled already. Taken already.
Well, that's quite a spin. That's quite a positive
that's
spin
quite
on
a
everything.
spin, man.
But yeah.
Quite a spin.
I mean, yeah, so, you know, I can't imagine that the couple will move out or anything like that, right? They just probably will express shock about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, the good thing is the family doesn't seem too perturbed. In fact, I think they were quoted as saying their biggest worry now is a leak in the ceiling.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, so good lah. I mean,
yeah.
maybe they're a bit more open-minded than there are a lot of other people who are making a big hoo-ha about it lah, right? Yeah.
Correct.
But interesting
yeah.
thing to discuss lah, whether you would live in a place where someone died in before lah, right?
Yeah. I mean, chances are I think it happens a lot more often than people think lah.
I think so
Maybe
too.
someone dies and then they just are brought to the funeral home.
Yeah. Heck, I mean, don't say places someone died lah, right? Like literally, maybe things that you see on Carousel as well, right? Were from a family member who recently passed or something like that, lor. And would that stop you from buying or using it? No, lah, right? It's in fact, if anything, it's good for the environment. It's kind of like you pass it on to someone else who has use for the item and all that, lah, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, and every day in some little way, you know, not even if you're buying a house, if you're just buying stuff off Carousel, you could be buying someone that used to belong to someone who recently passed. And it's not, you can't be superstitious about all these things, lah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it's part of life, man. It's part of life. All right,
that's right.
But yes. Shall we move on to something a little more lighthearted?
And also a big part of life, which is one Shiok comment that has come up for you. What is your one Shiok comment?
My one Shiok comment is a comment from Pencil Brids on our last podcast, which you admittedly have already responded to on Reddit.
Yeah.
Because you are always there, apparently, right?
Yes.
So basically, we were talking about the whether or not gay teachers should come out in class to their students and all that. And the commenter put, my friend works in an English tuition center, and during one of the company gatherings where everyone had to talk about something from their childhood growing up, this American teacher said his most proud moment growing up was getting and shooting a gun. So it just felt like, I don't know. I mean, sounds like, I thought it would be originally be like overseas this happened, but tuition center I think is quite a Singapore thing, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it just felt like, I don't know, like in this day and age, also for an American to say that feels like, okay, interesting.
Yeah,
I find it a bit weird, but yeah.
I think my reply to that was that actually probably for a lot of Singaporean guys, firing a gun also is a part of your growing up that you remember as well, right? Whether positively or negatively, right? Because of army.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, what was the first time you fired a gun? How do you feel?
I mean, I thought, okay, this is cool. But I wouldn't say, I think it's one of those things that because everybody does it, is like you wouldn't brag it to your friends. You're like, hey, bro, I shot a gun. They're like, hey, you in NS, blah, blah, blah. It's almost like in Singapore, if you are currently shooting a gun, People know you're an NS.
Yeah. And it's not cool.
It's not a flex.
It's not a flex. Yeah.
It's not cool.
I mean, I will admit it's
flex.
pretty exhilarating initially, right? The when you fire a gun and the force of it and just the physics of the engineering marvel that goes into how a gun works and smelling the gunpowder and all that.
Gunpowder.
Yeah, it's a interesting, very exhilarating feeling. But once you do it a lot more in the 1.5 years that you're at NS and all, it kind of loses the shine, right? And that's why it's very, to me, like the last time I visited the US, it was quite comical when I walked into a Walmart and literally like they were selling PlayStation games, then they were selling Nintendo Switch games, and next to that they were selling ammunition, for small firearms. And I just found it funny because it's almost like the way it's glamorized, almost like a lifestyle, something that a real American does, own a gun and shoot guns and wear camouflage and shoot animals and hunt. The way that it's almost like glamorized like a lifestyle, it's so different from our experience of it. Like, go and collect ammo again. I don't want to collect ammo. Later I have to go and later I lose the ammo, then I get in trouble, I get charged, that kind of thing. We are so averse to having to do it, in Singapore, compared to how Americans view firearms and ammunition and all. It's quite comical, the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, what about you? What was your one Shiok comment?
One Shiok comment is actually the responses to, I think Jungle Jimbo was asking Harish to review Avatar since you loved it so much. But since then, there have been a couple other people who have come forward with their responses about the Avatar themselves. ZZ Way and Hot Garbage Comics, who have watched Avatar 2. And they're interesting. They just came forward to share their thoughts about it. So notwithstanding whatever Harish is going to say. So I think it's quite interesting takes about the show that is about to beat my favorite movie from last year, Top Gun Maverick, in the I think in global box office. So yeah, it's I haven't seen the movie myself. I'm not sure if I will actually watch it in cinemas. I probably will, at some point. But do share your thoughts about it so we can get some discussions going. And you haven't seen it yourself, right? Even though you mentioned you wanted to.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Haven't.
You haven't, right?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Are you planning to go and see it already? As you made plans already?
Not yet.
I'm still trying to find someone else who will watch it. Is it?
I'll probably watch it alone, okay? And there's nothing wrong with watching a movie alone.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
If not, it's just Slumber Party 2024 and then we'll watch Avatar 2 on TV.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But yes.
But yeah. And what about your one Shiok thing, man?
My one Shiok thing is kind of like I'm just also I do want to. I can't wholeheartedly recommend it for everyone to watch it, but I think if you watched the first season of Alice in Borderland, a Japanese Netflix show about a dystopian future in which people are, they have to play very, very sinister, very twisted games to survive in this alternate world, alternate dimension that they've been blasted into. If you watched season 2 of that, I'm very curious what people think about it, because I've heard very mixed reactions from influencers and all that as well. The first season was awesome. First season was very engaging, a lot of fun. But season 2 was a bit different. So I do want to put it as a one Shiok thing because I found it, generally enjoyable. So I just want to hear what people think about it as well. Have watched it and think about it. Alice in Borderland season 2, yeah.
Oh, I see. Because I've heard that it's good, but haven't got down to it yet. Right now, I'm still watching Witcher season 2.
I see.
And it's good, man.
Got it.
It's good.
Okay. And what is your one Shiok thing?
My one Shiok thing is like last week I was just looking for one of those NPR Tiny Desk concert videos to just veg out to, and came across Maggie Rogers. Have you heard of Maggie Rogers?
No, I haven't.
Like she's this like folk pop singer from the US that I think first blew up in 2016, and now she was nominated for a Grammy for Best New Artist that year, and she had her album come out in I think not too long ago, because in between she completed her degree at Harvard and all that. But what what my one Shiok thing in particular is the song that blew her up. It's called Alaska. And there's a video on YouTube because she was doing a course at, I think, NYU. And just so happened, Pharrell came to be like the guest speaker. And kind of like he spoke to the small class of students. And a few of them came up and played like the song they were working on. So the first few that come up, he gives them some notes, he gives them some stuff. And the one clip that went viral is Maggie Rogers comes out, and she's quite an awkward person, but very, very sincere, very genuine. And she talks about how, she's learned folk and she never thought she would do anything outside of folk. Then she went for exchange in Berlin. Her friends forced her to go clubbing and she had a spiritual experience with dance music. She came back and then she plays the song, right?
Yeah.
And you can just see for the whole song, Pharrell, you can see him being blown away in real time. And because they are both listening to the song, you can see her glance at him, then he glances at her, then she looks away, then she starts rocking her head to the music, then he rocks his head to the music. And after that, he said he had no notes for the song, and that went viral. And I think shortly after, there were multiple labels trying to sign her.
Oh, wow.
But just that video, the reaction is so awkward, but so pure, so pure. Is awesome. I love that video. And Pharrell is just blown away, and she's so awkward about it. It's so nice to watch.
How recent was this Pharrell thing, Maggie Rogers?
2016. That happened in 2016.
Okay. So
yeah, but when I was listening to the NPR thing, I was like, oh shit, who is this person? Then I googled, then I came across this. I was like, oh my god, that's cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, so cool.
Nice.
So cool. But yeah, that was my one Shiok thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So we're done with the first week of 2023.
Yeah.
And
More to come.
we'll be back next week.